Old school or old fool? Right now on Vinyl Hell. What is up, Hellions? Welcome to Vinyl Hell, the show where we review the most notorious, or perhaps even obscure, refugees from the garbage heap of vinyl history and decide if they belong in vinyl heaven or vinyl hell. My name is Scott Mercer, your humble guide, cursed with talent. Today on tap is The Artifact from comedian Joe E. Ross, titled, Should Lesbians Be Allowed to Play Pro Football? Joe E. Ross, not to be confused with Joe E. Brown, Jack E. Leonard, or Alfred E. Newman. If you are looking for the hoariest type of nightclub comic material, hoariest in both senses of the word, you have found your lodestar, ladies and gentlemen. So what do you say? Let's put the needle on the record and check it out.
Worry does not pay. And I got news for you. Neither does this job.
Joseph Roskowich, known professionally as Joe E. Ross, was born in New York in 1914. He started his career as a singing waiter at a restaurant at a golf course, and when the place added a floor show, he was promoted to the position of announcer, and then he promoted himself to the position of comedian by adding some jokes to his routine. Like many people in those days, his career path was blocked by World War II. After the war, he worked as a comic in the burlesque circuit, appearing at the diviest of dives in Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, Baltimore, Hollywood, and Miami. Those were the days when, in order to justify having women taking their clothes off on stage, somebody had to be thrown into the package, specifically an unfunny sub-Lou Costello jokester, to tell some jokes, throw a pie, squirt some seltzer, throw in a rubber chicken, you know. At a club in Miami, Ross was spotted by Nat Hiken, then preparing the Phil Silvers show, also known as Sergeant Bilko. He cast Ross more or less instantly as one of the supporting characters, Rupert Ritzik. Almost immediately, Ross's comedy catchphrase, one that would define him for the rest of his life, appeared on the TV show. One of the lamest, devoid of content belches ever heard in the comedy realm. It made Bobby Bittman's "How are ya?" seem like James Joyce. The immortal catchphrase was a constipated "ooh, ooh." But actually, this was not a catchphrase at all. It was filler that Ross would bark out when he couldn't remember his lines, which was a lot. But Ross's acting career is probably best defined by his follow-up gig, also courtesy of Nat Hiken. That of Patrolman Gunther Tootie in Car 54, Where Are You? An absurd, over-the-top style of comedy with almost parodic, near-meta humor was the hallmark of this show, following the antics of two bumbling New York City cops. Ross and his partner, Fred Gwynn, later Herman Munster, of course, were both New York City natives. Now, of course, ooh, ooh had to carry over to this subsequent show, along with his new catchphrase, do you mind? For the rest of the 60s, Ross appeared in various failed sitcoms, and in the 1970s began a prolific career as a cartoon voice actor on shows like The Hair Bear Bunch and Hong Kong Phooey. I remember both vividly from my very early youth, so in my brain, I unfortunately associated Ross with Dawes Butler, Paul Frees, and Frank Welker, people with actual talent. Ross also did a number of commercials at this time. Though Ross did release a novelty single called, of course, Ooh Ooh, and an entire singing LP called Love Songs from a Cop on the mob-controlled Roulette Records label, that's not what's under discussion here today. Perhaps another time. Laugh Records was a Los Angeles-based record label releasing naughty party albums, basically raunchy sex-filled comedy albums, almost exclusively by black comedians. Ross was one of a very few white artists on the label. In 1973, his stand-up comedy record, Should Lesbians Be Allowed to Play Pro Football, was released, or perhaps it escaped.
About a guy goes to confession. He says, Father, for the last 10 years I was a very good husband, but the last 2 years I was falling down on my sex life. But last week, I don't know what happened to me, Father. My wife was bending over a sack of potatoes, and I got such a sexual urge. I grabbed her, and I did it. Right over the sack of potatoes. So the priest said, oh, that's all right. You're a husband. It's allowed. He said, you're not going to kick me out of church? The priest said, no, why should I kick you out of church? He says, it's funny. He says, they kicked me out of the supermarket.
Was Ross trying to recapture his glory days here? Well, he is pictured on the album cover wearing the same cop uniform he had sported on Car 54 10 years earlier. Listening to this record, we enter into a sad land of routines that were fresh 20 years earlier, though certainly hacky even at that time. Although Ross was known as a dirty comic and a filthy human being in all senses of the word, here the routines rarely slide into edgy material. They just aren't funny.
Did he ever say that? I'm not sure. But in closing, I would like to say this. Is this a sign of me getting old? Last night, a girl said no to me, and I said, thank you. So long, everybody.
So now, listeners, the final decision, the one you've all been waiting for. Where is this one going? Vinyl heaven or vinyl hell? Well, if you're a fan of old-timey burlesque club humor, a style and a world long gone from this earth, this would be a fine window into the super corny material exemplified by the genre. Or if you're a devotee of the quirkiest of character actors from decades gone by. So, there's some interest here as a historical document, I guess, but certainly not as entertainment. Therefore, this record is taking up residence in vinyl hell. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you'd like to support this channel for free, then subscribe, comment, like the video, and most importantly, turn on all of the notifications. If you'd like to go a bit further, we do have a page on Patreon with exclusive content coming soon, and all my other social media links are in the description box. See you soon, Hellions. Until next time, keep your ears open.